I would like to thank everyone for taking the time today to join us for our roundtable, medical devices roundtable. My name is Rajiv. I am the Commercial Operations Director for Asia Pacific for our medical devices. And today I would like to introduce two gentlemen who are strong technical stalwarts in their respective fields. So we have Mr. Sendil Kumar, who is our technical team manager for our general devices team, which deals with CE MDR. And also I have Mr. Sri Hariraju Mantena, who is our service delivery manager for quality management systems for India. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Sendil to begin the roundtable. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajiv. Good evening, friends. Uh, Sorry for making you to wait because today we have seen about 30 registration for this event. So we thought, like, considering Indian standard time, we thought we'll give some time. I think it is more than half an hour. I think it is good time to start now. But we will not disappoint you. This is going to be a very interesting, very informative session. Yes, as per the topic, we will discuss about clinical evaluation requirement, difficulties and challenges faced for the compliance. Yeah, and this is the content, the slide, and we'll have a background about the clinical evaluation, a clinical evaluation plan, state of the art, clinical investigation, equivalency, literature search, and Article 6110, then clinical evaluation consultation procedure, post-market surveillance. Actually, this content, if you see, it is in the order of clinical evaluation report, what we will expect. So this is the background. Morning also we displayed this slide. So in our review, what we have seen is the major gaps are from clinical investigation, clinical evaluation report. And to start with, when we review the document, most of the time what we see is the manufacturers are confused or not very clear about what is the conformity route they take to demonstrate compliance to clinical evaluation. So that is the major part. So that's what this route to compliance is very important. So when you write your CEP, clinical evaluation plan, or when you write your clinical evaluation report, it is important that you need to make sure what is the route to compliance you are going to take. The route to compliance includes clinical data. Of course, you need sufficient clinical data to demonstrate compliance to MDR requirements. It could be the clinical data obtained through clinical investigation or literature search. We can get the clinical data from literature search. But when you do the literature search, there are two things. One is it could be from device under review. You may get clinical data when you do the literature search. The device used in those study can be your device also, which is high level of data it will become if your device is used in the clinical study. Or it could be an equivalent device in certain cases, or it can be similar devices. For example, if lower classification of devices, we do accept clinical data from similar devices, but of course you need to write justification for why you are using similar devices, not your device, not equivalent device, why you are using similar devices, clinical data from similar devices. That also we will accept, but we expect justification from the manufacturer. And then another route is equivalence, claiming equivalency to already certified device, which is already in the market. So that is another conformity route which you can take. And clinical data obtained from PMS activities, which is mostly compliant, customer compliance or PMCF study, like that. But normally the PMS, clinical data from PMS activities are considered low level of clinical data. I'll talk about the level of clinical evidence what we look for. But normally from PMS activity, because there are challenges in getting a correct feedback from the market, because not all the people don't complain. So that we consider, if it is only PMS activities, clinical data from PMS activities, we consider that as a low level of clinical evidence that can be used in certain cases. For example, legacy devices, the device in the market already MDD certified, it is in the market for several decades. So in those cases we may accept a lower level of, again, lower classification, lower risk devices, those cases will accept. But higher classification of devices, high risk devices, PMS, clinical data from PMS activity alone may not be sufficient, which we can see that later also. And there is another important option available for the manufacturer, which is Article 61.10. In the Article 61, the 10th point, it says the manufacturer can demonstrate compliance to general safety and performance requirement through non-clinical data. But whereas there are, it is again lower classification of devices, and you need to justify why you think clinical data is not relevant to your device. Means you should not have any, the device should not have any clinical claim. For example, like your surgical scalpel, okay, it performs two things, so there is no clinical claim. If there is no clinical, surgical scalpel itself, some may have a clinical claim. It may say, it is fast as I can make an incision with this, slightly less deeper, and it improve the surgery time. So if that kind of claim made, he cannot make it. Whereas if there is no claim, I think manufacturer can apply EMDR Article 61.10, which is the easiest route. So these are all the route to complaint. So when you plan your clinical evaluation plan or clinical evaluation report, make sure which route you are going to apply. That is very important. So that will set path for the review for you to collect the clinical data, sufficient clinical evidence, and also for the reviewer to understand which level of what kind of document he is going to review. So that is important. So route to compliance is very important.
Have a difficulty in setting up the clinical evaluation plan. Uh, it differs from country to country. For example, we faced a problem when we conducted a study in Turkey. So, this writing this clinical evaluation plan, we have to get all the inputs and write. But whether BSI is involved in that, and have you written anything, or you have any case study like that?
Okay, there are two different things.
Hmm.
Clinical evaluation plan is different. Clinical investigation protocol is different.
That is different. Protocol
So
is
you are
different.
talking about
The plan.
clinical evaluation
The
plan.
first step only I am talking. Clinical
Clinical
evaluation plan.
evaluation plan,
Hmm.
and I think in the slides I have next coming slide, I will explain about clinical evaluation plan. What should be there in the clinical evaluation plan and where you can find the information. There are slides.
Can we depend upon the risk class of the device?
It can be more than one. You can collect
If we have a device of class 2A, then we are claiming it through the literature search, say, or similar device. It is enough, or we need to perform equivalence.
If it is a class 2A non-implantable device,
Non-implantable, non-active, non-implantable.
you set
I will
literature
search for,
and,
for similar device only.
and PMS activities.
Yeah.
These two are
Only literature search
only literature.
for
That is possible.
for on device and similar device. We have both literature for both.
So when you do the clinical, literature search, you select the articles, right? We have, how to select the articles.
It is.
You do data appraisal, you apply inclusion and exclusion criteria, and you select the article to do the full review. So when you select those articles to do the full review, the devices used in that review is your own device. If that is the case, that is a high level of data, which is very good.
Okay.
That is.
Okay.
And in that case, if it is class 2A non-implantable device, a lower classification, we can also write justification for getting clinical data from similar devices available in the market also. There is a thing. It's a legacy device.
Yeah, legacy.
Then we have to go to MDCG 2026.
Yeah, talk.
It says you can demonstrate. So when somebody asks you if they don't accept, you can go quote MDCG 2026.
But MDCG is not a legally bound document.
But that is a guidance document.
Yeah.
Not legally bind, but it is a guidance document issued by EU Commission itself. But there is no, since there are no other harmonized standards or explanations available, the manufacturer can justify. But again, BSI, as a BSI reviewer, we will accept that.
Okay. Okay.
And if it is given.
Okay.
Other notified body, I cannot make a comment on
Yeah.
whether they accept or not. But we do tell manufacturer to refer to MDCG 2026, and it says for the lower classification devices, if there is no evolution in the design, it is well established device and state of the art is maintained, then we will accept from this device.
Yeah.
Plus, with of course, since it's a legacy device, you will also have PMS activities, data from PMS activities. So, in the clinical evaluation plan, in this case, we would expect you to write this justification that why the lower level of clinical, for example, in this case, if it is only similar devices, clinical data, and the PMS activity, we will expect the manufacturer to justify in the clinical evaluation plan and clinical evaluation report that this is, we are using lower level of clinical evidence because our device is well established. It is there in the market, and we have a robust PMS data. This is what.
But as per the in one or two presentations to yourself, if you have a legacy device, still you need more evidence for safety and performance.
That's what. That is a clinical evidence.
You are using a legacy device. This doesn't mean you do not need to perform PMCF data. I think you have told in your presentation. If you are using a legacy device, then it does not allow you to do not perform PMCF.
Okay, I will come to PMCF
Yeah.
later.
Okay.
PMCF is necessary. Any class of devices, PMCF is necessary. But whether it is specific PMCF study or general PMCF study is different. Correct. Yeah, that is correct. That's why I'm telling more than one. You can follow it. There is not that only one. But you need to specify which route you are going to take. You can collect clinical data, but what we have seen is people, when manufacturer put everything together. Okay, they dump everything together, but when we go into analyzing the data, it is not clear. For example, the clinical evaluation report has risk management. Of course, it has to have risk management, but there's biocompatibility. It has risk management. I'm claiming equivalence, and also I'm doing clinical investigation. Like that, everything they put, so we are not clear which route to take. Again, in the coming slide, I will explain what it is. Right? Manufacturer claim, we are following equivalency route. But whereas when we review, it is not equivalent device. It is a similar device, which is not acceptable. That is what it comes. Yeah, everything they dump into the CER, so the reviewer is not very clear which route you want to do. Because when I said in the morning, right, we need to follow your audit track. So in that audit track, we need to see that. And I think as the presentation progress, you will get more clarity. So what we will expect, why the route to compliance is important. Okay, I talked about clinical evidence. So the MDR says there should be a sufficient clinical evidence. But whereas there is no definition given in the MDR about what is sufficient clinical evidence. So, but then when you analyze the data and we understand, it says the present result of the qualified assessment which has reached the conclusion that the device is safe and achieves the intended benefit. That means the amount of the quantity and quality of the clinical data is matter. That is what sufficient clinical evidence means. What is a quantity? How many people involved in the clinical evaluation or clinical investigation? So the quantity is important, and also quality of the data also important. Sometimes the quantity is more, but it is more of survey. People just tick yes, no, like that. So quality and quantity matter. Sometimes it is quality is good, but the quantity, they enroll like say 200 people, but they get patients, but they get response from only 20 or 30 people. The rest of them not respond. So in this case, quantity is missing. So that's what the sufficient clinical evidence means. You should have the right quantity and also the right quality. It is like, interventional study, randomized clinical trials like that. That is the quality of the data and also quantity. But quantity, you need to justify statistically, you should satisfy this number of patients is enough, and you run statistical analysis for that to demonstrate that this is enough. So that is what sufficient clinical evidence is important. Okay, coming to your question, clinical evaluation plan. The clinical evaluation plan is your roadmap to clinical evaluation report. It's like everything, like you have PMS plan, then you have, PMS report or PSUR report. Similarly, clinical evaluation plan also is a roadmap to your clinical evaluation report. So if it is a new device, if it is not certified before in MDD, and the clinical evaluation plan should follow the MDR Annex 14 Part A. It has several bullet points. What should be there in the clinical evaluation plan? So you should follow that. If you start answering that, then you will meet that. If, because the requirement here is more. So then MDCG guidelines issued, then commission, understood there is a challenge for the manufacturer to write clinical evaluation plan for the legacy devices, because like it is already in the market, it is already established. Certain things are not relevant what is given in the MDR. That's the reason in the MDCG guidelines, MDCG 2026, in Appendix 2, so what should be the content of the clinical evaluation plan is for the legacy devices it is given. It is more clear for the legacy device, what is needed for the legacy device. So this approach you can take. If it is a new device, go to MDR Annex 14 Part A, list the bullet points, answer that. If it is a legacy device, go to MDCG 2026 document, go to Annex 2, it has bullet points, address that, that is clear. The important thing is the clinical evaluation plan should address all the bullet points given in these two documents. So it is, if you read that again and again, you'll learn a very simple thing, they are asking. So what is the intended purpose of the device? What is the safety and performance objective? And how you are going to quantify the data? Okay, so like that, these are very explicit questions, explicit bullet points are there. So if you read that one or twice, you will understand. So you have to write that and write your explanation and give your response. So that will meet a clinical evaluation plan meet, then MDR requirement. And another one is clinical development plan. If you look at both MDR and as well as MDCG guidance, they talk about clinical development plan. But sometimes it's a legacy device, so why should I have a clinical development? Or the lower classification of device, why should I have a clinical development plan? So sometimes we see the manufacturer writing that we have our device is already in the market, so we don't have a clinical development plan, not applicable. So that is other, which is not correct. The clinical development plan needed for all the devices, all the classification of devices. The reason being is you continue to collect clinical data through the PMCF study, even if it is a legacy device, even if it is a lower classification of the device, you continue to collect clinical data through your PMS or PMCF activities. So how you are going to use that data is a clinical development plan for the legacy devices. So that is why it will be simple. If it is a new device or complex device, high risk device, your clinical development plan will be elaborative. But if it is a simple device, legacy device, your clinical development plan will be part of your PMCF study. So that is one of the point we look where we see the gap. It's not a major gap, but still, it need to comply to the MDR. So we go back to the manufacturer and we tell them that clinical development plan is must. Again, this is what I touched upon, the level of clinical evidence, which we expect the clinical evaluation plan talk about this level of what level of clinical evidence you are going to provide. So the level of how do I know the level of clinical evidence? Again, this is given in Appendix 3 of MDCG 2026. If you go, the clinical data obtained from clinical investigation. So that is high level of quality data. So like that, they have, when you do the literature search, if the literature search is randomized clinical trial, you are collecting data from randomized clinical trial, that is higher level of data. So like that, they have given I think 12 or 13 bullet points which talks about what is a level of clinical evidence. So then you can decide, so what level of clinical data or clinical evidence is needed for your device. So that is up to you. If you are able to write that, okay, this is what for my device, this is the risk classification. So I am going to have a lower level of clinical evidence, which is PMCF activities, data from PMCF activities, a lower level of clinical data, and similar devices data from. So if you look at that table, it tells you what is the level of clinical evidence. So then you can quote that, you can justify that. So if this and all, if a reviewer see all this and they get confidence on, yes, you understand the MDR requirements, you have referred the correct documents. So the level of confidence increases. So that is important. Any question on clinical evaluation plan? Please, because this is a round table discussion, so if you have any question, you no need to wait until the last. You can interrupt me, we can discuss, and we can go ahead. Yes.
No need. I think I'm audible. See, clinical trial means terminology. We do clinical investigation. So, for new device, mostly it is coming from outside India only. In India, new device conducting clinical investigation is very minimal, in my opinion. Am I right or wrong?
I can't answer that question because
Because
we don't conduct
innovation here in a new device, that too in high risk category, is very, very minimal. Even if it is developed in India, the data they go for other countries to collect the clinical data. So when another country, new device is coming into this country for exclusively conducting only clinical investigation, the problem starts from the clinical evaluation plan. So it applies to any country. So when it comes, how it is taken from the regulatory part? Do you have any experience in that? Can you give us some? Can you throw some light on it? Because, and this is a new guideline now. MDR has come. It is all evolving for the past few years. So it takes time. Everyone takes time. By the time the project goes away, 1.5 years, 1 year they take. The sponsor gets frustrated. We are not getting approval. So the sponsor goes to the next country. So this is how it is happening. So new device conducting clinical investigation in this country is very, you can say three clinical investigation or 4 clinical investigations may come. So and also I want to understand the difference between the clinical investigation and you said equivalence. I feel both are interlinked, right?
No.
No? So in clinical investigation, some endpoint is there. In equivalence, another endpoint is there. So how it is different?
We will discuss about the equivalency later. Coming back to a clinical investigation, see, if you are going to collect clinical data from clinical investigation, it is up to you to decide where you are going to conduct a clinical investigation. I can speak because it's EU MDR. So I can speak in the perspective of European Union MDR only. Okay. So we would prefer, or we would, it will be high quality data if the clinical investigation is conducted in the European Union, in the European population. So that is what straight method. But it is maybe not possible to conduct clinical investigation in European countries for several other reasons. So if a manufacturer conduct a clinical investigation as per the ISO standard, you need to follow the standard, the clinical investigation standard, because it has a lot of requirements like ethical committee approval, consent form, and and statistically valid data. All this you can conduct in any country, and we will expect the manufacturer to provide scientific justification how this clinical data is relevant to European population. That is what we'll expect. And similarly, like anatomical, everything is different, right? Physiological, anatomical, different. So we will expect this scientific justification of how the clinical data, clinical investigation conducted in XY country is relevant to European Union population and also the European Union clinical conditions. For example, the surgery performed in XYZ country may be different than the surgery performed in the European country. So we will also expect that. So if this is given clearly, we will accept that data. I cannot answer your question about India specifically because we talk about EU MDR. I am also not well versed with how things work in India. To be okay. Okay. Then the next part comes state of the art. This is very, very important. What we expect in the clinical evaluation report is we expect the manufacturer to demonstrate that your device is still relevant, it is still state of the art. So what is state of the art? Sometimes is misunderstood that if it is a new technology is used in the manufacturing process or whatever it is, that is misunderstood as a state of the art because it is a new technology, new to the market. But that is not correct. The state of the art is generally acceptable principle. So how the surgeons are how they are using, what is the intervention or what is the clinical intervention the surgeon or the medical practitioner is using is the state of the art. So in most of the cases, most of the surgeon, most of the medical practitioners, in most of the the healthcare professionals, they are using this kind of devices only. So that is state of the art. Still that is relevant. I'll tell you one example, a very simple example using surgical gloves. And if you are aware, historically surgical gloves are powdered because it is made of latex. If it is not powdered, it will stick. It is sticky powder. So when they started manufacturing surgical glove, they used powder as a dusting powder to avoid the gloves sticking to the wall. That is good, right? But what happened when the surgeon opened in the clinical setting surgery, the powder sprays because there is level of powder content, but still it spray, it go into the wound. You just imagine, when you do the surgery, the powder contaminate the wound, the surgical sites. So that was a challenge surgeons are facing that time. But that time, based on the risk benefit, it is better to use this glove with the powder than not using glove at all, because the benefit outweigh the risk. So that was the case. But over the period of time, the powder-free gloves started coming. So there is a change in the state of the art. So powder-free gloves started coming. Now if you see, most of the surgeons are using powder-free gloves. When it started, it was different. Not all the manufacturers were able to switch over to powder-free gloves. So everybody was using only powder glove. But over the period of time, everybody mastered the art of producing powder-free surgical gloves. So now the state of the art is powder-free surgical gloves. So the powdered surgical gloves is no more state of the art, because not many surgeons are using powder glove because of this risk factor. So when the manufacturer came, we certified under MDD powdered gloves also. But the recent development, we have seen it is a shift. So powder-free gloves are state of the art. So now under MDR, we don't accept powdered surgical gloves. So that is a simple example. So your device should be used in the current situation by majority of the surgeon. So that is the state of the art. Okay, a state of the art is a very important aspect what we look in the clinical evaluation report. So you can collect state of the art information through the literature search. I think that is the only option available, because we expect you to collect the data about similar devices available in the market, your competitor devices, benchmark devices. We expect you to do that through the literature search. And also what other treatment and diagnosis or alternate treatments are available. Why using your device is better than the alternate treatment. So this is all, so this is what we expect in the state of the art. So this is what we expect, and it is all given, in the MDCG guidance also it is given. So what is state of the art? Even MedDev guidance also it is given what is the state of the art. So these are all the important points we check. So what is the undesirable side effect in your device? So you want the manufacturer to thoroughly investigate, collect data and investigate and justify that these are all the points available. This is the undesirable side effects of the device. This is alternate treatment available, but among all, still our device is state of the art because of this. Because this outweigh the benefit outweigh the risk, and these are all the reasons. When compared to other treatment, using our device pose less risk. So that is what the state of the art we will look for. And also when you do the state of the art, you collect data from your similar devices or benchmark devices available in the market. So in that, you will also identify the safety and performance objectives. So that is very important in the state of the art. So because when you collect the data, what we expect you to collect the data from the clinical studies, and then you will have an average. So when we use the device, or similar devices are used, benchmark devices are used in the market, this is the safety factor. So much of problem we can, for example, I take a glove itself, surgical glove itself, and it is possible that the user, the healthcare professional, may have about 2 to 4% of allergic reaction, because some people are allergic to latex. So when you collect the data, it will show in the, you will have a lot of articles you reviewed. So you will collate all the clinical data and it will give you the adverse events from those clinical studies. So that will form basis for your safety objective. For example, that data say 2 to 6% of the population had allergic reactions, and you will set your safety objective as 2% or 6% or between 2 to 6%. Similarly, the performance also. So when you complete your state of the art search, when you review our clinical data, you need to identify a measurable safety and performance objective. This is very important. That is because when you do a clinical investigation and your endpoint will be this. So when I do a clinical investigation, my safety endpoint is this. My performance objective is this. This is what you need to demonstrate. So this is what we will expect from your clinical data. Whatever the method you collect, whether from equivalent device or through your clinical investigation or through literature search, whatever you demonstrate, you need to demonstrate, yes, this is what I identified. The similar devices, benchmark devices available in the market, this is a performance objective, this is a safety objective. So my device is on par with that or better than that. That is important. That's what we will expect in the clinical evaluation report, the manufacturer to specify measurable safety and performance objective.
Hi. Yeah, it's working. Thank you. Hi, this is Dr. Pratibha. I work as a subject matter expert in a consulting company for supporting medical device manufacturers with clinical evaluation. What you're mentioning, sir, I would interpret that as the quantitative acceptance criteria that we need to define from the state of the art, which can then be compared with the device data for safety and performance. In case of devices where, let's take the example that you gave of gloves, we know that there isn't going to be literature specifically talking about gloves. That's rare if there is any. So even if we have defined similar devices in a clinical evaluation report or at the time of creating the plan, there isn't going to be enough data to define acceptance criteria based on just the similar devices. So what would BSI's expectations be in that case? Gloves is just an example. I think out of all of the devices, the most challenging are such class 1 legacy types where because they have been state of the art for a long time, there isn't it isn't expected that there would be much published literature for those devices. So would it be acceptable for defining those acceptance criteria from the alternatives in the state of the art, in your opinion?
For example, for class 1 devices, they are self-declared. If it is sterile devices, the notified body involvement will be only on the sterility aspect of the device. If it is a measuring device, it is only on the measuring aspect. If it is a reusable device like class 1S, class 1M or class 1R, the notified body involvement is only to those aspects.
Correct. Let's say class 2A, for example, where there will be involvement. Yeah.
We will see the literature search. Did he use what kind of databases he used? Okay, and what kind of search term he used? What is the inclusive and exclusive criteria he used? Then we will see whether he used broad search term, he used multiple databases to collect the data, so that we will scrutinize. So quality of your literature search we will scrutinize first. Then we will see, and as a notified body, as a reviewer, we also might have reviewed similar devices. Mm-hmm. So we also will know if other manufacturer is able to demonstrate they are able to get, why you are not able to get.
Right.
So if it is standard, yeah, we know it is only this much of data only is available. Right. So which we have seen from other different reviews, we will accept again based on the quality of the search what you have done and based on our experience.
Okay. So from BSI's point of view, the comprehensiveness of the literature search would be one point. And if there is strong PMS data, including PMCF, that can be considered as clinically sufficient if it's known that those kind of devices may not have a lot of published data.
Again, it is two different things. Mm-hmm. Because PMS data is a clinical data you are talking about. I'm talking about now performance and safety objective obtained through the SOTA, state of art analysis.
Right.
So that is different. So for that, we will expect for any classification of device, we will expect the measurable, quantifiable safety and performance objective. Mm-hmm. That is important. Otherwise, how I will compare? Correct. We have seen this, manufacturers just generally say, oh, mine is state of the art, and lower risk. My device is lower risk. My device performs as expected. That's what they say.
Has been on the market for a long
Exactly,
time.
on
Yeah.
the market, and also when they collect the clinical data also, the same thing they say. This is same like that, but which we cannot verify unless you quantify. So you want me to quantify, even using gloves, right? Low risk device, but still there are performance objectives, safety objectives can establish which is available in the clinical data. Though it is low risk devices, lot of clinical studies have been done on that.
Right.
The literature is available in the body, which as a notified body we know, because we know we have been reviewing a lot of things, so we will know whether it is available or not.
Yeah. I think from almost 3.5 years, I would say quantification is an expectation in your review.
MDR specified that.
Yeah,
So
MDR.
that's how-
Yes.
That's how we can manage. I mean, we can see that, right? Unless it is quantified, how we'll know whether it is meeting or not.
Right.
Everybody will say generally it meets, cannot say, right? So this
Yes.
is the data, this is available to this is very, I think it's very reasonable, right? This is the device available in the market, this is a similar device, this is the benchmark device, this is how it performs in the market. So
Yeah.
we quantify.
Scientifically
Exactly.
expected.
And
Yeah.
our device is on par with that. We don't expect your device should be better than that. It will be good if you can demonstrate it is better, but at least we say it is performing at least same as what is available on the market. So that is
Right.
not state of the art.
Understood. Thank you.
So actually, I had a question over here. We spoke earlier briefly, so I think you're a little bit familiar with our device. It's a class 3 device with no predicate, and currently we are doing trials in South Korea, which is where we're based, Tao Medical, and also in India for the purposes of getting regulatory approval here in India. And I think it was here at this conference where we were first made aware of the possibility of getting reviewed by BSI India for EU approval as well, as a possibility. And we spoke briefly, I think there was a question earlier about clinical evidence that's gathered here for the purposes of Europe. We actually had been meeting with several notified bodies in Europe, one of them being TUV, that advised us that, again, like what you were saying, for our device in particular, because there are no anatomical differences between European hearts versus patient population here in India, we could make a justification for using that data, though we had never considered using Indian data, again, getting reviewed by BSI India for that purpose. But one question that I had was specifically for our device, which is class 3, that has no predicate. It's a novel device. From another notified body, QMD, they had suggested that we explore the option of perhaps an orphan device. And I only bring this up because the data that we're collecting is quite small. But again, because of the condition that it treats, which in and of itself is not orphan, though the scenario within which our device would be used is quite limited. So our study itself is not a randomized control trial, and the enrollment is in double digits, so less than 100. And so in that scenario, and again, I think you had made a very clear point earlier that clinical evidence is sufficient to demonstrate the efficacy and the safety of the device. And so in a way, that's up to us to defend that. But given those pieces that you have, I'm not exactly sure if I can ask a specific question other than the orphan procedure/device distinction. But if you have any input or feedback on kind of the information that I just gave you, that would be really helpful.
Okay, I want to clarify one point what you spoke in the beginning. BSI, if you apply to BSI for this device, and if you are as a legal manufacturer, you are based in India, the audit will be conducted by only QMS audit will be conducted by India. I mean, the resources available in India. Your technical documentation review and clinical evaluation review will be conducted by whichever is the appropriate resource available in BSI anywhere in the world.
I see. So from what I understand, BSI does not. So for Asian manufacturers, what would that be? So for a manufacturer based in South Korea, where would that?
Same principle apply.
Okay.
Anywhere in the world.
Right.
For example, even they are US-based manufacturer.
Right.
And the technical documentation review and clinical evaluation review will be conducted by appropriate resources available anywhere in the world.
And for BSI, where would that be?
Yeah, in the BSI. For BSI as a notified body.
Right.
I don't know about other notified body how
Sure.
to tackle it.
Okay.
But BSI, that is how we do. Because as I said in the morning also,
Right.
we have very specialized expertise as a product reviewers and clinical evaluation reviewer. So it is very difficult to find this reviewer in every country,
Right.
which will be very high cost for notified body as well as the manufacturer.
Got it.
So that's
Okay.
why we have a pool of people.
I see.
Not one or two. We have a pool of people under that expertise.
I see. Okay.
So that will be reviewed by at the time of the technical documentation coming for review, whichever the resource available it will be thing.
Okay.
But they will continue to talk to the manufacturer. As if you are a manufacturer, they will talk to you. And
Okay.
there are different avenues for that. One is structured dialogue, or if you are up for a dedicated review, that will be a different also. There are options. They will talk.
Okay. So not country specific.
Sorry?
Not country specific. It's just whatever resources are available and appropriate to the region.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And regarding your clinical investigation itself, again I make as a general point, because if it is your novel device, there is no predicate, and a class 3 device, high risk device, and definitely clinical investigation is needed. Clinical investigation with sufficient clinical evidence, as I said, definitely we will look for, and you can go through, what is the clinical evidence, level of clinical evidence. Since it is a novel device, since it is a high risk device, the clinical data from clinical investigation is very important. Definitely, if it is BSI is reviewing, they will give more importance to that clinical, because novel is a high risk novel device. We don't know how it will perform in the thing. So for that, we will expect. But the number I cannot confirm. If you say 100, maybe, okay, because you need to statistically validate it. Why the number of data you collect from the number of patients you think is statistically relevant, statistically valid.
So we're less than 100, around 70, and that was suggested by the CRO that we work with according to their statistical model.
That is what I mean.
Yeah.
I cannot confirm the number,
Right.
but whoever is performing your clinical investigation, they can write a scientific justification for selecting that sample size. I think your ISO standard how to conduct a clinical study that says about the sample size. So how to do your p-value should be greater than 0.5, and why it is, what is the confidence level. So the whole level of statistical. So that they will justify. And that can be. And again, we do recognize certain clinic, you cannot conduct high risk devices in larger population. So it may be acceptable, but again, the onus is on the manufacturer and the person or the company who is conducting the clinical investigation.
Do you have any? Is there in fact a distinction between an orphan kind of condition versus a device that's not necessarily intended for an orphan condition, and yet might be considered an orphan device in that there are very few people who could actually then be enrolled in a trial, per se?
I'm not clear about the orphan device category. It means orphan device means it does not fall under any category. It is not a medical device, then only it is orphan device, right? Because there is no clear classification rule.
From what I understand, it simply refers to devices that are intended to treat diseases that are so rare that normal clinical trials would not be possible. So you would not be able to do an RCT because there just wouldn't be an enrollment for it, and yet there's a clinical need. Our device is not orphan in the sense that the condition is not rare. It's in fact common and increasing, especially in elderly patients. And yet, because it's class 3, there is a barrier to having a larger enrolled trial.
Understand. I think in that case, for the orphan devices, I am not very familiar with the requirement. We can connect you to one of our experts who handles those orphan devices. I think that will be, then they can give you a clear picture. And you can use the structured dialogue. You can contact our commercial team. I think they will connect you to the right resource and they can give you a clear picture. That's not my expertise area, so I am not very
Can I make a comment on this if you don't mind? You can consider a device as an orphan device if it is intended to treat a very rare condition or a rare population of patients. The difference from how an orphan drug is regulated is there's no very specific reduced requirements for an orphan device, like how for an orphan drug the standard requirements would not apply. They have specific reduced requirements, let's call them. You don't have reduced requirements, but there are specific clauses in MDR that speak to orphan devices. So, what Sir said applies here. It just matters how you justify that your device is novel and it's orphan. And that should scientifically make sense to the reviewers. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, for the legacy device or a new device, we have to choose the path. If the sufficient data available, for we have to go for clinical evaluation. So, if we do not have any sufficient data, so what should we do? We should do just a normal clinical investigation. So, if the manufacturer of mine is out of India, and I'm selling my device in another country, out of the manufacturer, in which country I'm not manufacturing that device. So,
No problem. Take your time. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you say your device is a legacy device, right?
my device is just a new device.
New
Let
device.
me take an example. You here I study the manufactured by Abboud, and we want to just manufacture that device in India, and we have choose a manufacturer which is out of India. So we will conduct clinical investigation. So which market should I have to choose? Is it out of India or India? Because the device is a class C device of IVD, and also consider the aspect of usability.
That is what I said. In the MDR and NTC guidance, there is a provision that the clinical investigation can be conducted in other country other than European country, but you need to demonstrate or you need to give a scientific justification how the clinical data is relevant to the European population and European clinical conditions.
Yeah.
So if you are able to do that, that will be acceptable. And again, you may be the legal manufacturer, you are outsourcing your product to some other company manufacturer. That is fine. But the legal manufacturer take a responsibility to conduct the clinical investigation. Or your subcontractor, manufacturing subcontractor, whoever manufactured that device, also can conduct clinical investigation. And they can collect clinical data and you can use the clinical data. But you should have full access to that data. Because sometimes what they do is the subcontractor, they will conduct, but they may not give full access to the clinical data. So that will be an issue if it is a high classification device, high risk devices. So you need to have a full access to the data. Because as a legal manufacturer, it is the onus of legal manufacturer to have access to the clinical data.
Yes, Sandeep, this one. On the lighter vein, just I want to tell this. If you see India market, medical devices are fully occupied by MNCs. You take anything, you take a cataract lens, after cataract you put lens or the knee replacement or the stents, wherever you go, 75 to 80% of the market is occupied by MNCs. I don't want to name the MNCs, but you know, everyone knows that. If you see, whatever the data generated for that particular product is not generated initially from India, but we believe that the data is good. What they do, only they do PMS only. PMS studies, they continuously publish and they maintain their product life cycle proper. But for a new medical device, as you said, when anyone is coming to our country to generate the data for the new medical device, then the SOA, then the procedure, the way we do the surgery here, and how it is different in other countries, all this discussion comes into the picture. So that becomes little difficult. So we have a mindset that we agree MNC products are perfect. That is how it is being populated in this country. And the new medical devices, when it comes, it has its own challenges based on the price or the quality or whatever it is. So this, I think everybody is aware of it. So conducting clinical investigations in this country is a challenge for new medical device. And now MDR has come, so people who are manufacturing high risk products, they also take a call. So some population they do it in India, as he said, some population they do it in another country to maintain their risk. So this is my humble opinion. I don't know if you have anything different you can tell me.
No. So I said I can't talk about that.
Yeah.
What is the condition in India? Why it is difficult to conduct? Actually, I am not aware of it because we don't conduct clinical
Yeah, you
investigations.
are not
We only
clinical.
review that,
Yeah,
clinical
we
data.
are into clinical,
Yeah.
so we know of this area, but it's not so easy. So PMS studies are plenty of going on in this country for established products or any product which is there, because that data only is required to maintain the product in the market.
Sorry if I can make a comment to that. To the point you said about spreading the sites in India and other countries, that's not just for risk, it's also it's for scientific rigor, because if the population is from 2-3 different demographics, then the scientific data is qualitatively stronger. That is another reason. And as to and because I work for a service provider, so I've interacted with a lot of manufacturers. A lot of them want to now do studies in India, actually, where it is justifiable that the data would be accepted specifically in EU MDR regulations. So if they want to sell in the EU market, they're trying to come into the studies in South Asia because of cost factors. And for existing devices now, because if generally manufacturers have a CE mark device under MDR, then their entry is much easier. So it's that's why all legacy devices, they go through EU MDR and then they make their way in this direction. That's what's happening.
Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Yeah. Then I'm now picking, one by one, where you collect clinical data. So when you do a pre-market clinical investigation, what you look for? The major point, I'm covering only major bullet points. And we expect, it should be done as per ISO 14155 standard. And I think that also has a list of requirements what to be met, which we have ethics committee approval. We'll ask for the document for ethics committee approval, and statistical justification for sample selection, and again sufficient clinical data, which is number of participant and the nature of the study, and data relevant to Europe population if clinical investigation is out of Europe, and endpoints versus claims. So what is the endpoints we have obtained in your clinical investigation, and what claims you are making against the device. So that is what we will look for. I think we have discussed this extensively about this in the previous slides also. And I think I have a note here. Clinical investigations are required for all class 3 and implantable devices. All class 3, all implantable, even class 2A implantable or class 2B implantable also clinical investigation is required. But there are some exemption is given, which is, you can refer article MDR article 61.4 to 61.6b. So there are some exception is given. So that if you go through that is a long list and need more discussion. So please refer that if your device is exempted from clinical investigation or not. Then equivalency device, which I will touch upon. Implantable and class 3 devices, again refer MDCG 2023-7 to confirm the exemption is given from clinical investigation or not. Because if this exemption doesn't apply, you cannot claim equivalency. So we will expect a clinical data from your device itself unless it is exempted. So that is important point. And another major gap what we see is the manufacturers say we are taking equivalency route. When we go and review the data, they have only similar devices, not equivalent devices. That's what I'm saying. Equivalency is not equal to similar. They are two different terms. So if you claim equivalency, I think it is very good. MDCG guidance is available about equivalency. There is a table also given. So you need to demonstrate technical, biological and clinical equivalency, the characteristics. And point by point it is given in the MDCG guideline. So we will look for that your device is equivalent to the device which you are claiming equivalence. And there may be some small variations are there. I think the MDCG guidance and the MDR itself say where it should be same, where it can be similar. And there are variation possible as far as you justify those variations. You give scientific certificate for variation, it is possible. And important thing is there should not be any clinically significant difference in the safety and performance of the device. Maybe the technical characteristic, biological characteristics may be small difference, but the final clinical safety and performance should be equivalent to the device what you are claiming equivalent. That is one of the part we will see whether it is matching or not. And you should have sufficient level of access to the data. This is what I was talking earlier. Particularly for higher classification of devices, we will even expect a contract between the manufacturer and the equivalent device. If it is a lower classification of a device, we don't expect a contract to be signed.
Which class do you call that? Class 3 and class 2. As per MDC. But as per the guidance document of EU MDR, there is no classification. And legally bonded document is not a MDC. The rule is the guidance document. So what should we do? According to that, we need a contact for class 2 also, class 2B also. I have a long round of several notes for those, not one, several. But there is very no clear answer given. In the end, they say what is it? This is a guidance document, not every. So you have followed the legally bonded document. Then we cannot do equivalence with any manufacturer because nobody is going to give us agreement.
I understand, but BSI does recognize MDCG guidance if you are able to, because MDR is written, making amendment is difficult. That's the reason MDCG guidance is given. So BSI does accept it. That's what I have written here also, MDCG guidance reference.
Not many.
I can't talk about other notified bodies. Okay, I can't comment about other notified body and under which what circumstances they told that, I don't know.
Then you also provided the agreement to
If it is a higher classification of devices, there are, I can't reveal that whether provided or not. We follow this, and unless it comply, we don't certify. And we have certified more than 2000, which includes a lot of higher classification devices also. we have as a BSI, I say 2000 MDR, more than 2000 MDR certificate BSI issued. That means in overall, if you see, that is about 26% of, there are total 50 EU notified bodies designated for MDR. In that 2000 certificates is about 26% of overall MDR certificate issued. So that means you see about 1 in 4 certificate coming from 50 notified bodies issued by BSI. So we are issuing, one of the leading notified body, completing the reviews and issuing MDR certificates. I can't reveal that, right? That's what I told. If they don't give, you need to conduct a clinical investigation. So there are possibilities. For example, right, with a manufacturer, maybe a big, you see, big MNC, they have a contract manufacturer. So the contract manufacturer need this MNC business, they may give. Okay, it is based on your purchasing power, right? So it is, so that I cannot go into that detail because that are not commercial. It is between two legal entities which I cannot comment. But there are possibilities. Yeah. Okay, understand. You can claim because you have a clinical data. You can claim equivalency to your device. No problem at all. You can claim. That is very good actually. We have seen many cases like that. And if it, because if you claim equivalency to your own product and you have full access to the data, so which is very good. That is acceptable. Yes, please.
So I'm Satya. I'm from Vantive Healthcare. Basically, we are manufacturing dialysis machines. We have a different variants, and the question related to peritoneal dialysis equipment. One of the device which is already in the market, and we have added some features, and basically it's a class 2B device, and we are releasing in another name, which is called Claria Plus. Already marketed device name is Home Choice Claria. We have added some features, but there is no change in the intended use, and there is no significant impact on the safety and performance of the device. So in that case, shall we use the clinical data, which is our, which is we are considered as a equivalent device, and how long we can use it? And one more question is, was there any time limit? And this is first question. And second one is, we have another plan also. After 3 years, that Home Choice Claria I told, right, which is we are considering as a equivalent device, that that no more in the market. Claria Plus only will be the market. In that aspects, how we are covering the clinical portion. Okay.
So in this case, you are claiming equivalence to your own device, which is a previous generation device, right? And I want to look at okay. You are want to claim equivalence, and you said there are some features changed.
Yeah, features.
And that you need to justify. I said, right, there is a table comparing equivalency, technical, biological.
Yeah,
and clinical. So if you can justify that these features are not affecting your clinical and safety and clinical performance, that will be acceptable. But how you are going to claim this, right? Because the reviewer will go through what changes you made, whether it will affect or not. And what kind of data you have from your new generation of device. Do you have any clinical data at all? No. So it is, you are going claiming equivalence with some features added. So again,
it's the kind of, earlier it was button type, now it is a display touch screens, and some of the components were added.
okay. See,
That's
then mechanical you are going to electrical.
As well, software also we are updating.
So then this might be posted by your review because it is a change, design change itself. So I don't know how much, risk factor will come in and it works. I mean, I don't go into the details, but you need to consider that.
Okay.
So the reviewer may ask more questions. And that is again up to you to demonstrate why you think it is not going to affect the reviewer. But if I am not a dialysis specialist, but here with the information what you give, I immediately can see it is a big design change. Where it is mechanical going into electrical and electronics. So that need definitely additional reviews, It may impact clinical performance. And I don't know safety also, right? What software validation you have carried out, all this work is up to you to do that. Suppose you are convinced and you are able to convince the reviewer that this device performs as intended, there is no significant difference in the clinical safety and performance of the device. Your device will be certified based on the equivalence device data. When the device is certified based on the equivalency, the clinical data from the equivalent device, there is a one condition where you have to conduct a PFCF study on your device. So when we certify the product, we will also ask you what is your PFCF. So when you are going to collect data from this new device. So that we need to again comply to the PFCF plant requirement specified in MDR and MDR. If that is satisfied, then after that, equivalent device is gone already because we already certified your device, the device is on the market, and we have a PFCF study. So we will focus only on your PFCF study. If your PFCF study, of course, we will, we ask for the timeline of it. If your PFCF study, when we review it, if it is satisfactory, if there is any problem, and there will be.
We have done that equivalent study. There is no change in biological characteristics and clinical oriented also we don't have any impacts. It's exactly matching. We have changed some of the components, that's it. It's not majorly affecting. There is no change in the intended use also.
That is not really. I can't comment on that.
Okay.
And also I don't know the details of studies.
Okay.
You are telling me that biocompatibility means biological equality is same and intended purpose of course will be same, but it's a design change. We don't know the technical performance, whether it will perform as intended or not. We don't know. So these are all our specialists will ask this question that we apply. Yeah, they know the device very well. Whoever is going to review, they will know the device very well and they will come back to you with a question. So then you should be able to. Okay, then sufficient level of access to the data. It is only for class, higher classification of devices, lower classification of devices. If it is publicly available information, you can also quote, literature search, data from literature search also will be accepted. No problem about that. Then, if possible to claim equivalency to a non-CE certificate. We expect we claim equivalency to a CE certified device, which is easier because we have confidence it has gone through the EU regulations and everything. But there are in certain conditions we also accept non-CE equivalency. And please go through the MDCG guidance. I don't have the list, and I think the MDCG guidance what I have given at the bottom is this that. Okay, then there are conditions, maybe a lower classification of device, like that few conditions. So that's about equivalency. Then we go to the literature search. So the literature search is carried out for two major reasons. One is SOTA, state of the art analysis, which we extensively covered. And the second one is to collect sufficient clinical evidence from your own device or from similar devices also. So what we take, I think this already we discussed about what we look in the literature search. The search strategy itself, we see how many databases you used and what is the search period. Is it the wide search period you used, or a latest data also you have collected, or you have gone only to the historical, and what are the search terms used. We will look for, you cover the broad search terms where undesirable side effects also, that devices with undesirable side effects also comes into a search. And also we will look into what is the inclusion and exclusion criteria you have applied, and what is systemic methods you use, like PICO, Prisma, like that. So that we will look at it. And also once your search strategy is okay, we will look into how you are appraising the data. How do you think that whatever the search data, how you appraise, how you select the final review for the full article review, how you select, that is also the thing. Then also we'll see in the summary of the data, the relevant safety and performance objectives. So that is what, if you demonstrate your clinical evidence through the literature search, here we will check whether the data obtained, clinical safety and performance data obtained in your clinical search, in the literature search, which you say this is what my data, or equivalent device or similar device or your own device. Here we will verify this with your performance and safety objective, what we have done in the SOTA. So that is what it will come. So we will start looking at those data, whether it is matching or not. And we will expect from you the summary that this is our safety and performance objective, and this is our clinical data. This is matching the safety and performance objective we established during the SOTA. So that is what we will expect. And we will also expect a full, if you say number of I have selected 10 literature search to collect the data, we will also ask for the full article, copy of the full article thing. It is not only the abstract, we will look for a copy of the full article. Okay, I think we have covered all the clinical data where it is required. Now we will go to MDR Article 6110, where there is an option you can claim compliance to general safety and requirements by using non-clinical data, which clinical data deemed not appropriate to demonstrate compliance to GSPR. For that, we need a sound justification. Actually, these are also given in the MDR itself, Article 6110 itself. It says, so we will see the body interaction, whether it is a transient device or, transient invasive device, like that, body interaction is very, only it is touching that, intact skin. It is not only touching, the wound on the surface. It is only a transient invasive device, the interaction with the body. And the clinical benefit, there should not be no direct or indirect clinical benefit. And it will be, most of these cases, we will also look for whether there are any specific device specific standard, like for example ISO standards, like that. We will look if you have that, will form basis of claiming, because you will do a performance testing of the step, because normally the product standards, they have test method to do a performance testing for the devices, so that we can provide as a supporting document. And also bench testing. Bench testing mean maybe you will test against the standard, like bench testing you can do. You can simulate that use condition, I can use a bench testing, plus biocompatibility data, risk management, all this you can support to claim compliance as per Article 6110. So this is again for the lower classification of device, is an easier route for clinical. But again, you need clinical evaluation plan and clinical evaluation report, even if you are claiming through complaints through Article 6110. For the example of the devices, surgical scalpel, I told already, and the disinfectants, medical device disinfectant. So you cannot have any clinical benefit for that. And even surgical gloves also, there is no, because it is only a prevention, this, preventing the cross contamination. So there is no direct clinical benefit, direct or indirect clinical benefit. So those kind of devices can be, can follow Article 6110. Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Can I ask something about clinical benefits? We know now that it has to be to comply with MDR's definition, a patient-centric benefit that we define for the device. But there are devices where it may not be, the benefit may not be to the patient per se. It could be a benefit to the just the clinical practice, or generally in case of software we have seen that happen a lot. So would that be accepted as a benefit that can be then justified in or supported in the clinical evaluation report?
It can be. It can be accepted because there could be like indirect clinical benefit.
Okay.
Yeah, you can still do. Again, you need to write justification. That's
Right.
why it is.
Right. That with all of the reviews that I've seen from BSI, justifications required for everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
For the acceptance criteria, in case of such benefits which are not patient-centric directly, would that be acceptable to be supported with non-clinical data? For example, testing, for example, risk management,
If there
those
is
kind
no
of data.
direct clinical benefit, it is possible. For example, you take gloves, right?
Right.
Surgeon is wearing, right? It is protecting both actually. Surgeon, it comes under PPE as well as medical device because it is cross contamination, because surgeon also can infect the patient. So that's why it is a medical device. If it is protect only the surgeon, then it will become only a PPE.
Right.
So, in that case, there is no direct clinical benefit. It is only a prevention.
Right.
It is possible to do that.
Sure. I was asking more in terms of even a device that could be even more ancillary, like it's for storing, some medical instruments or something that is
Because that is not
necessary
even
to the
contacting-
procedure but not related to the patient.
Exactly. It is not even contacting the patient, so it is even better because the body interaction is not there at all. So that is even better. There is no direct clinical benefit. You are only storing a tissue in a petri dish or container.
Right.
So those kind of devices, Article 6110 is the proper route.
Sir, one more question in terms of alignment of documents. We've seen a lot of focus on consistency of information across different documents in the tech file, but it's also expected that the CER is a standalone document. It is not really, like what we used to do maybe at the beginning of MDR's advent, that refer to risk plan, refer to this, refer to that. So what information from your perspective would you be looking for in the clinical evaluation plan or report from the risk management file?
For the risk management, we'll expect what kind of residual risk you identified, then how you address, how it affect the clinical performance, or how it affect the clinical safety, and also your risk benefit profile. How do you justify your risk benefit profile? So that's what we'll expect, only the brief,
Okay.
the information, and how do you use, whether the residual risk, whatever you are, whether you have addressed, you considered in the clinical environment, whether it is added to your IFU or not, or information provided to the user or not. So these three documents are interrelated. Output of risk management, output of clinical evaluation, then IFU or information provided to the user. So these three are interlinked. So we will look for all these three is addressed in the clinical evaluation report.
A last question related to this clinical data topic. One of the recent manufacturers that I've been working with, they have, in terms of acceptance criteria, which we know has to come from state of the art, like you've been saying, otherwise how would we compare where the device stands? What they've been doing is, it's a high-risk device. They update their data annually. So they define their safety and performance, what would be acceptable from the previous year's data. That's the acceptance criteria. And then they evaluate the new data from this annual update of where it stands compared to that. there is no state of the art acceptance criteria at all. In your opinion, is that acceptable
What do you
from
think?
BSI? I don't think so.
Correct.
From the
Because
kind of reviews
your
we have
data,
seen
you
from BSI
cannot-
now.
It cannot, and again, the PMS data is very limited, right?
Right.
Low quality data. So you cannot base safety and performance objective based on your data itself.
No, sorry, to clarify, it's not from PMS, it's from previous literature. Let's say literature till last CR, and then now in this CR, they are comparing their
From the
new
SOTA
literature data.
From the SOTA analysis itself.
No, from their own device data.
That's what. Own
And
device
from the new
we
data.
know, because
Yeah.
again, like when we gone through the state of the art analysis, we have seen benchmark devices, similar devices, how it perform in the market. So we want that data. So
Right.
so it is not from your own data. I mean the manufacturer own data, which I think bias.
Yeah, I thought so, but their claim was that BSI is okay with that. So I wanted to clarify.
I think I would think that is a biased data because it is coming from your own device. So it should be based on SOTA. That's why SOTA is very important. And it should be based on the whole information available on the market on the similar devices and the benchmark devices.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, for class 3 implantable devices and class 2B active devices intended to administer or remove a medicinal product, we need to have a clinical evaluation consultation procedure. So that is MDR requirement. And that is, time consuming process where notified body need to complete the clinical evaluation. Then after that, go to the consultation, the panel, and they will review the data. The notified body report on the clinical evaluation report, and they will provide their opinion, whether what kind of opinion there is a definite timeline for that. If you can see that here, that's what it takes overall about 75 days. So if your device is class 3 implantable or it is class 2B device which administer medicine or remove or administer medicine, you need to add this clinical evaluation consultation procedure also. So these are all the timeline given. For example, 7 to 10 days for screening of the document submitted by notified body by the expert panel itself. And then this expert panel will send to the secretariat, then decision by the screening panel whether an opinion is to be provided or not. If the opinion is provided, then the documents forwarded to panel committee, then opinion is provided, and how the opinion is whether accepted by notified body or not. But mostly notified body will accept, they will not contest the expert panel because they are industry expert, they are the device expert, so mostly we will accept. BSI has gone through this clinical evaluation consultation procedure for several devices. The opinion what we received is very minor, I would say. Maybe they want more information on the IFU like that. I think we have a summary of that also. Yes, yeah, we have done clinical consultation evaluation procedure for orthopedics, dermatology, rehabilitation, rheumatology devices, circulatory system. So all these devices actually we have done, and this is, if you see on the right hand side, this is some of the recommendation what we received is recommendation for IFU changes to warning. Maybe this warning we have to give extra, contraindication, risk of injection in certain anatomies, blindness, embolism, stroke. Because these are all very, we'd say, minor opinion we received, and we never had a major opinion. This implies that the expert panel is happy with the notified body conclusion, the BSI conclusion on the clinical evaluation of those high-risk devices. Then again, the PMS, PMCF and PSUR, after the certification, it comes into picture. So we expect the PMS also, it addresses all the points, which how you are going, what are all the inputs to your PMS, how you are going to collect data, how you are going to utilize the data, that is again going to the risk management. If you identify the new risk, how you are going to handle that. From risk management, will it go to clinical evaluation or not? Whether if a new risk is identified, you do need to update the clinical evaluation report or not. So all this will come into picture. And also PMCF, there are two kind of PMCF. If you are claiming equivalency, we will expect a specific PMCF study to collect clinical data from PMCF study. Or if it is a higher classification of devices, like novel devices, we have a completed clinical investigation. But if it is going into the market, because in the real world, because it is a clinical investigation, a limited study. So how it is going to perform in the real world, we want to know. So in that time also, we'll insist the manufacturer to have a specific PMCF study.
Would there be a substantial difference in how PMS or PSUR requirements would differ between conditional CE and just typical CE approval?
It will be both, because conditional CE means it may be for a certain period. So maybe until you provide your PMCF study, so we give a certificate for you maybe 2 years, so that in these 2 years you put your device in the real world market and collect data and give us the PMCF study. If the result is good, if there is no adverse thing, it performs as intended, then the CE may be.
Okay, but inherently, PMS and PSUR, these things would be alike in either scenario. They'd essentially be the same thing.
Sorry?
There wouldn't be a substantial difference between, for instance, so PMS is a PMS. It's not going to be substantially different between the requirements for data collection, hypothetically, if it were a kind of conditional CE versus class 3 device that requires PMS anyhow after CE.
That's right.
Okay. And would all of that be part of, like, the strategy for data collection would be part of the application in the first place because it's required for class 3 devices anyhow?
That's correct.
Okay.
We'll make sure, you have a PMCF study as per, I think we have MDCG guidance also how to conduct PMCF study. So we'll expect you to fulfill all the requirements. For example, same like clinical investigation, right? What is your endpoints, what you are measuring? What is your study population? And how long you are going to conduct the study? So these are all things we'll expect. So again, PSUR is you're collecting, like before we call as a PMS data, now it is going to be PSUR, that if it is class 3 devices or class 2B implantable devices, every year we will expect a PSUR to be submitted. If it is a class 2A devices, a lesser classification of devices, every 2 years we will expect a PSUR to be submitted to the notified body. These are reviewed. And you can go through Article 83 to 92 and also the MedDev and MDCG guidance to get more information on the PMS and PSUR. Okay, I think that's what we covered everything. If you have some other question, we can discuss.
Whenever we refer MedDev 2.2.7 our CR document, order is like this is not MDD. Then in MDCG they are referring many of time MedDev.
So what we do is, if MDCG guidance is available, we give priority to MDCG guidance.
Inside the MDCG we are referring MedDev.
Yes, if there is no MDCG guidance available, only MedDev document is available, we accept MedDev document. That is how we work. But if the MDCG, it is already available, we give a weightage to MDCG because it is updated. If it is not updated, MedDev is the state of the art. So we give importance to, we give recognition to MedDev document.
Ego use for generating search term. There is no like our overall search strategy. Can we use both in a single document?
You can use.
Yes, we can.
I have a question. Does BSI have a GSPR checklist form that it can provide manufacturers?
What form?
GSPR checklist.
Oh, okay. Actually, GSPR checklist is very simple because the GSPRs are available, right? Normally, what we see the manufacturer is they put the serial number or the GSPR number and they copy each GSPR and they say it is applicable or not applicable.
Okay.
If it is applicable, they say what is the traceable document, why it is applicable, where we can find where they demonstrate, which document demonstrate compliance to that. If it is not applicable, we expect justification why it is not applicable. So that is the GSPR checklist.
Okay. Right.
Sir, my question from biocompatibility. Can I ask?
Yeah, can.
Okay. We have purchased different type of master batch for a specific device and its gadgets. But raw material supplier conduct a biocompatibility testing only for one type of one color, and we purchase 10 different type of color, and we conduct a biocompatibility study finished device from one master batch, suppose with the orange color. So how can justify that all the master batch are biocompatible?
See, if the material is different, okay, there are, see, complex question, okay. You can, I think, when you do that, there is option for you to do a chemical characterization as per ISO 10993.
Okay.
If you do a chemical characterization and you are toxicologist, because we don't accept anybody doing the biological safety evaluation, it is up to your toxicologist to say whether this need a further testing or not, further endpoint testing, biocompatibility testing or not. So that can be done through the chemical characterization. They will say they'll do why it is acceptable and what quantity it goes into the device, how we contact the patient, and what is the margin of safety. So there are a whole lot of things are involved. So we will first read the report, biological safety evaluation report written by a qualified toxicologist. Then we'll make a call whether it is acceptable or not.
But further, there are questions. My question further that the chemical characterization and toxicological risk assessment study conduct for a specific color, not for all, because the cost is very high. So that's why I'm asking how can we comply to
Okay.
all the grade, all
See.
master batch that they are biocompatible.
As far as regulatory is concerned, we don't go into the commercial aspect. We will see the material is safe or not. If it is a different color, it is definitely different material. We have to use a different pigment. So we will expect the manufacturer to conduct biocompatibility test for that. If you don't conduct, then we will expect justification from the qualified toxicologist to say why additional test is not required. So if you are satisfied with the justification, fine. If they cannot justify, but because any qualified toxicologist will consider his risk also for his qualification also. So based on that, we will make a decision whether it is acceptable or not.
Sir, again another question there. If we conduct a biocompatibility testing, then it is compulsory to conduct a chemical characterization and toxicological risk assessment.
Chemical characterization is important. The chemical characterization will tell you need to conduct a further animal study or not.
Okay.
So that is the first part actually. We will expect chemical characterization.
yeah.
The
It's a
chemical
first part.
characterization will tell whether you need to do further animal study or it is not necessary.
Okay, yes.
That's how it is. Nobody will advise. It is manufacturer responsibility.
Nobody asks. But when we enter the MDR, they say through chemical
Even auditor are also ask for a biochem test report, not asking for the chemical characterization test reports.
I can't answer that. See, the compliance is based on 10993.1 Part 1 standard. If you read 10993 Part 1, it says very clearly you need to conduct a chemical characterization.
Agree, sir.
Okay, so if you claim our technical documentation is compliance to ISO 10993 Part 1, then you need to have a chemical characterization.
I agree, but for a small manufacturer who have a small capacity, then how it complies that document? Because the
As a
testing
regulator, I told you already, as a regulator, commercial part we don't consider. For us, patient safety is important. Whether it is a small manufacturer or big manufacturer is not important. Yeah, we will use only the patient safety is important for
can
us.
we also justify from literature any like that this material grade is safe for that device?
That is what I'm telling.
Beyond
That
of literature search and other.
is what I'm telling. It is based on you and the person who is doing a biological safety evaluation.
Okay.
So I can't answer that because it is specific to your device, your condition. So it is all based on you comply to ISO 10993 Part 1, you prepare biological safety evaluation and what is there, what chemical characterization. Of course, when they conduct chemical characterization, they will also do literature search. They will get data from there, then they will put it. So it is all based on who is preparing a biological safety evaluation.
I can answer that actually with BSI experience. If you're based on the chemical characterization, if the chemicals in that material are something that have been used for a long time, if there is enough literature around it, if there's been studies been done before, animal studies or other bench studies that are published, that can serve as justification. But that justification has to be acceptable. It has to be very detailed and have the right information in there to justify why this material will not be a concern of safety. If that justification is there, then you don't have to test every material, every pigment that is used. But that justification should scientifically make sense. Then then BSI will accept it.
So can you suggest us any website for that?
A website?
Yeah, literature search.
Literature search whenever we say literature search, it has to be done according to the scientific process. You would have to follow the entire, different stages of literature search with the screening, with the appraisal criteria, everything. Whether it is done for biocompatibility or it's done for risk management or it's done for clinical evaluation.
This is probably a little bit of a detailed question. You could probably also ascertain just by reviewing the regulations, but just in case you know off the top of your head, so our implantable device is comprised of the implantable and then the non-implantable, which is simply the delivery. And the question was, it was very clear that we need a chemical characterization for the implantable, but then for the non-implantable components, which are mainly used for delivery, or actually are used for delivery, the question was if that requires chemical characterization.
Again, I think you are talking about accessory.
Yes.
Your implant is a device,
Right.
and you use accessory for the implant.
Right.
So again, if you go to 10993.1, it is based on the body contact and duration. They will say what you have to do.
I see. Okay.
So when you do
That's
a chemical
clear.
characterization, if it is not touching the body at all, of course, you can say there is no
Right.
risk.
But if it's contacting the body, it does. Yeah.
Contacting the body, then it will say, the table
What
in
it requires.
10993.1.
Right. Okay.
It will say what kind of,
I think time tests are required for you.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Cytotoxicity.
Yeah.
What's your?
I mean,
Can you tell me about?
so the thing is, not all of our delivery, our delivery component, our delivery system, is comprised of parts that do make contact and that don't. But it's part of the same
system. Understand? Whether it's a system, it can be two devices. One is accessory. It will be classified on its own, rights, and also the device itself. So again, that's what your toxicologist, whoever is doing a biological, important thing is we try to minimize animal testing. Okay, that's what you use chemical characterization. If you are able to demonstrate through the chemical characterization that this is, yes, and we no need to conduct, it's fine.
So in that case, that would be considered like did you just say that would be two devices?
Correct. If it is accessory, if it is used to deliver the device, a delivery device, that will be classified on its own right. It may be not a class to be implantable because it is detachable, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So if it's all going to be approved or submitted as one device, the whole thing needs to be chemically characterized.
You can submit as a one device,
right?
But it will be done. It can be in the same technical documentation. So
I
that's
think
what morning in the slide
I think we have to take a step back here. There's a whole thing with what is a device, what is a component, what is a system, what is a accessory. So the first thing would be to determine what you're talking about falls under which category under MDR.
Right.
And then the requirements will be based on that.
Right. It should be fairly straightforward. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And
Thank you.
as for your biocompatibility question, just go to this ISO standard 10993. That's I think in BSI also, in my experience in their reviews, they very closely want to see conformity to that standard, and it's very clear in what is your level of contact with the human tissue, whether it is the patient or the user, and based on that, it can be justified what test is needed and what is not needed.
I see. Okay, that helps. And then final question. This is unrelated to the content, but more so about the slides that you shared earlier today. And then also now, if you're able to share that with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sir, if I can bring the discussion back to PMCF because you closed on that and there are a few questions on there. So we also know by now general PMCF, specific PMCF, from the experience of, what the reviewers have been saying, where what is required, what is expected is also getting somewhat clearer now. In case of implantable legacy devices that are very state-of-the-art, like let's say an artificial lens that's used in cataract surgeries. I mean, that is such a common procedure and such a common device that's used, not researched a whole lot anymore. There would be some historical data, but not anymore. And in terms of follow-up of the patients also, unlike other implants for an artificial lens, there wouldn't be a lot of follow-up with the patient. So in that case, what would the expectation be for post-market data? Because for an implant, generally there has to be either a process of PMCF or an expectation that what are you doing as a manufacturer for the entire device lifetime for an implant. So for such kind of devices, what is your opinion in terms of post-market clinical follow-up?
That's what PSUR is important for. Every year we review the PSUR, right? So we collect the post-market clinical data, and it's a well-established device. So that was we will not look for a specific PMCF study. So how you will continue a general PMCF only. And of course, since it is implant class 2B implantable now under MDR,
right?
Intraocular lenses. So which every year we will be doing a PSUR. That's the reason every year we review the PSUR.
Great. But my question was more from the submission point of view, like if it's going for an initial MDR certification, it's an MDD device going for an initial MDR, there would be an expectation of a PMCF plan that has a proper strategy.
Yeah, not specific PMCF study, and because it is a legacy device, you continue to collect data. Your PMS data itself is robust data. So, and you already have a clinical data. That's why it was certified under MDT.
Correct.
If it is sufficient clinical data is there, and if it is a legacy device, no specific PMCF study is required.
Okay.
It's a generic PMCF,
Right.
because which is part of PMS plan, right? So that is.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? So maybe we can close it. Sorry, about 2020. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your participation.
So just a short closing note. So thank you very much for attending this roundtable. It's our first event in India, and I think it's been much of a learning experience for BSI as well. I guess for you also. On behalf of BSI, we would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time. I know it's been quite late. So we would like you all to join us for dinner. We prepared quite a good spread, and we can continue some of the discussions offline. But before that, before we call it a night, we would like to ask you to join us for a team photograph just to commemorate this event. So thank you again from all of us. Please.